Universal Disclosure Podcast proudly welcomes Craig Campobasso.
And I realized that this is real, this is not a dream, and I started contemplating why this was happening. But I never feared them. It was all like, it was the most immense love. I mean, I can't even tell you. To experience it is that your body literally just goes into nirvana. People in the industry know that I'm this, so I get phone calls from actors, famous actors on TV shows, and they tell me about their abductions. They tell me about that they've seen their extraterrestrial children. They told me that one lady who starred on a TV show fought with a gray who was trying to abduct her daughter because she saw the ship. I have heard horror stories. I have heard mediocre stories, and I've heard beautiful stories. I mean, there was an agent, a very prominent agent in town. I have a casting office in his building once, and he came and told me that he wakes up at night and a gray, when he opens his eyes, is right here on his face. An hour into the conversation, he said, well, you know, your father was in the Air Guard, and our mother had to sign papers because he was underage, because he really wanted to go into the Air Force after. He went into the Air Force. He was in intelligence. And then he said, oh, and by the way, he was in Project Blue Book. Then we will become fully conscious. So really what that means is you are aware of everyone's thoughts around you. And you have to learn how to siphon out your antenna, right? To siphon out a lot of the noise.
The following program is presented for general information, education and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be advice of any kind. The content, views, thoughts and opinions expressed in this program are those of the individuals involved. The use of information on this program is at the user's own discretion.
Reverend Stu, what's going on with you?
Hey, I'm going well, Mike. I'm a performing musician, as you know. Been quite busy with that, giving the message at church, all my regular activities.
Excellent. Let's get irregular then, right? Let's shake it up a little bit. We're going to talk about the alien species today.
Wow, what one in particular do you mean, or?
Oh, no, not just one. We're going to talk about all of them. And I had no idea there were so damn many alleged alien species. So as always, you know, we've got our disclaimer anyway, but it's up to you what you do with this information. We find it interesting. We're going to talk about it because it's out there. And also, you know, where does this come from? We're going to find out. But, you know, we're not here saying that we've got all the answers, right? There's probably no way to really know that until we die, perhaps. I don't know. But nonetheless, this is interesting stuff. So...
Okay, that's pretty heavy there, Mike, talking about death already.
Yeah, I mean, we do explore heavy topics, right? But what I mean by that is, you know, my personal views are shifting as well, even, you know, right now in this moment, compared to from a couple of conversations ago. And I think that's important. The most important part about this is to keep an open mind, as well as an open heart, right? But an open mind, and don't get locked into any one particular thing, because I can see all around, you know, where people, whether they're investigators or researchers or, you know, broadcasters or whatever the case, they get their idea in mind. This is what it is, or this is what I think it is, and they won't entertain anything else. So what we do here is we bring in all of the information and mix it up and see if we can make sense of it.
Mike, yeah, you're telling me that happens in religion all the time, where people have formulated their ideas and they're not going to budge on it. But, you know, as I've told you before, I'm always open to exploring new aspects of the beliefs that I already have, and absolutely brand new information like we're going to do today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most people have probably heard about, like, you know, there's the grays, there's the short ones, there's the tall ones, there's my favorite, the mantids, and then the lizard people. Where's that damn talking fish when you need it? Who else we got? The reptilians. I guess those are the same thing as the lizard people. But there's also a bunch of other ones. Some of them are very human looking, and I hope I say these names right. The Ag Agarthans, the Alterians, the Andromedans, the Antarians, Anunnaki. I think everybody's sort of heard of those guys and gals potentially. Arcturians, Aryans, clones, and those are just kind of like the human-looking ones. Then there's the Centaurians, the Sagittarians, the Syrians, the Titan Syrians, the Venetians. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So this gentleman, Craig Campobasso, put together the Alien Species Almanac, which is what we're going to do a deep dive into today.
Mike, I have wondered, you know how people see different looking craft, different UFOs, and it seems to be tainted by their lens, by their belief systems. I'm wondering if we're seeing a plethora of alien species because of the same reason that's being filtered through our mind.
Possibly, likely, but what do you mean by tainted by their lens?
Just their expectation. So if you're expecting to see a certain thing, you might see that. I've heard Whitley Strieber talk about that too, where there's one appearance of a UFO and maybe 3 different witnesses see 3 different things.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that is some interesting stuff. So what you're saying is that you've got 3 people who are simultaneously seeing the same thing, right? You're a group of witnesses at the same time, place, and look. I just want to make that distinction.
Yeah, they're exposed to the same incident, yet they see different things. So I've heard this more than once in this whole exploration, Mike. So I'm wondering if that may also apply to these species.
That's pretty damn interesting. Don't know the answer. Let's see. Sort of what we can find out. But first, I seem to almost forget to do this on, every now and then lately. But welcome one and all, wherever and whenever you may be. This is Universal Disclosure, meeting the moment. My name is Mike, an active UAP field investigator in Southern California, with my friend and co-host,
Reverend Stu in Melbourne, Australia.
And something about that, Stuart, I really like it. Some people, maybe take it the wrong way or make fun of me. I don't give a crap. I think it's a very welcome. I mean, seriously, we do welcome everybody, and just your listening to this conversation is participation, and we also welcome your comments as well. And by the way, speaking of comments, pretty soon, again, as a quick reminder, we're going to be talking with the mantis beings again. Tony Guzzi is going to channel that for us in a couple more weeks. So if you're hearing these words before, I think it's going to be August 15th is going to be your deadline to send us a private message with your questions, up to 2 questions, and we'll ask the mantis on your behalf. Universal Disclosure Podcast at proton.me. Don't put them publicly because we don't want Tony to have any possibility of seeing these questions in advance. It's all going to just be presented right there in the moment. But I digress, and let's get back to this conversation. We're going to be dealing with the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac here with Craig Campobasso.
All right, I'm up for this, Mike. Very interesting.
All right, so this is a bit of a resume, but this is quite an impressive guy. Craig Campobasso, he's a multiple award-winning filmmaker and Emmy-nominated casting director. Craig Campobasso was only 15 when he started in the entertainment business. His young acting career was off to a great start when he landed his first national commercial for McDonald's chicken sandwich, and he spoke his first line of dialogue to Tuesday Weld in Mao. After graduating high school at age 17, Craig went to work behind the scenes on such blockbuster film classics as Frank Herbert's Dune, directed by David Lynch, and 2 Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, right? Conan the Destroyer and Total Recall.
Whoa. Okay, so Total Recall, Mike, that's a Philip K. Dick story. I'm fascinated.
So yeah, this is gonna be awesome. He began his casting career on Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories. Received an Emmy nomination for outstanding casting for a series on David E. Kelly's Picket Fences. And Craig's casting career spans 3 decades. His mother Marie Donna King Campobasso told him from the time she was pregnant with him that she knew that he was going to become a writer. And he fulfilled that prophecy when he was 26 after experiencing a life-changing spiritual awakening. That's when the autobiography of an extraterrestrial saga book series was born. His passion is to write stories that provoke the reader to think, to raise their consciousness, and to expand their mind about creation while still entertaining in Hollywood tradition. Craig has directed, wrote, and produced the short film Stranger at the Pentagon, which was adapted from the popular UFO book authored by the late Dr. Frank E. Stranges. After production, the short film collected accolades, and in September 2014, it won the Best Sci-Fi Film at the Burbank International Film Festival, selling out all 275 seats, which was a first time ever for that festival to be sold out. In 2015, it won a Remy Award at the World Fest Houston International Film Festival for Best Sci-Fi Short. And Craig has appeared on many radio shows, including Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. He has also been a guest on the Open Minds talk show with Regina Meredith and Beyond Belief, hosted by George Norrie on Gaia, Gaia.com. Craig was also appeared on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, where Giorgio Tsoukalos, with his wild hair, is the main ancient astronaut theorist. He's written multiple books, as we have said, The Extraterrestrial Saga, and the UFO Hotspot Compendium, all of the places to visit before you die or are abducted. And I've got a copy of that one, as well as the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac that we're going to be delving into today. So, you know what, Stuart? I mean, I did talk about dying earlier, and then, he says it right here. You got to check out these places before you die. So, I don't know.
All right, that's fair. You're on point.
Sometimes I don't know why I say what I say, and then it makes sense later on. But anyway, anything else you got, Stuart, before we bring him in?
Well, yeah, I noticed autobiography of an alien. That means it's written by an alien. So is he an alien, or is he channeled the book? I've got some questions on that, Mike. Also, you'll probably hear me mention his name is Craig. That's how we pronounce that name down here, down under. So don't get distracted by that.
Craig. Okay.
That's not a bad job.
Craig. Oh, well, you do your Texas impression. That's awesome.
We're going down to Texas. We're going to interview some people, see what kind of results we get down there.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Oh man. Okay. Anyway, got to have fun, right? Because this is a serious topic. But let's bring him in. That's a great question. Let's find out if maybe he was channeling or something. I don't know. Universal Disclosure Podcast proudly welcomes Craig Campobasso. So, Craig, thanks so much for your time and joining us today. We're really excited to speak with you and talk about all these different aliens.
There's a bunch of them.
I had no idea. There was so many, actually. I'm kind of curious. Like, what do you think is like the most prevalent or most common of them all?
Actually, the most common of them all are human. They look just like us. And I actually began studying human contactee cases when I was 26 years old. So I started actually going and listening to contactees speak. I started reading books about them. I started meeting with people in the UFO community whose only job was as they were a ufologist, and this is what they did for a living, and they traveled around the world meeting these people. And I just found it extremely fascinating that, in all the cases is that, all the different kinds of beings had different backgrounds or why they were coming here to Earth, or spiritual practices, things of that nature. None of them really had religion, but they found it an interesting concept here on Earth with us being dualistic and that kind of thing. So But it's been a long time that I studied it. Actually, that's why they asked me to write the book. It's a MUFON book, Mutual UFO Network. My former literary agent set up a deal between Red Will Weiser Books and MUFON, and they started a MUFON imprint. So I think there's maybe less than 10 books under the MUFON imprint. I have two. My book is the bestseller within the imprint as well.
Dang. All right, so that was actually one of my questions too. Is like, where did this information come from, and how did you come about it? So that
Well, yes, and just when you do a deep dive into the UFO community with all of its people and start to go on investigations and you feel things, you see things, you actually photograph. I photographed an extraterrestrial on a very famous case. And I put it in the very back of the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac book as the unknown alien, right? Because we didn't know exactly who or where they were from. I didn't feel that it was malevolent at all. I felt it was benevolent. So did the actual contactee, or actually he was an abductee at that time. And but his case has turned into a sort of getting into a worldwide phenomenon now. That's Christopher Bledsoe, who has the book UFO of God out now. So Chris is in the documentary, which I just finished, to the book. And he's also in the book, as he is one of the very few people throughout history that what they call the lady has come to visit and give messages through.
Yeah, the lady, that feminine energy comes up a bit with some of these accounts I've noticed.
Yes, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, well, Stuart, in the beginning, in our intro, you were talking about the different lenses and such. And Craig, I'm wondering what you think about this. Like, could it be, and we're just postulating, of course, but, the lady, could it be because of the person's own belief system that's sort of what's being presented to them versus like someone with a different belief system might see, although the same being might present in a different form? Or what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, his experience was there was a very large dead tree in his backyard, and it suddenly combusted all by itself in fire, and the lady appeared in the fire. Right. So there is physical evidence because the tree burned, and there's a picture of me and Chris in the ET Almanac book under the Lady of Light, where you see where it's all charred. And she appeared to him several times there. And what was interesting is the tree after that totally regenerated and became a great big beautiful tree again, right? Because it was dead at the time that it originally combusted. So it's that's a fascinating story. But I do think that people in belief systems and things of that kind of nature, that we all create our own reality. We all know that. But I also think it is through the lens of who's ever having whatever experience that they're having. They're calling that forth in any way, shape, or form. And as long as it helps them to spiritually evolve, then that's, in my book, I think that's okay.
Craig, with that account, there's the phoenix motif I can see there. There's the burning bush motif. Did that happen to be an oak tree too, in that kind of Celtic tradition?
I don't know. I actually don't know what kind of tree it is. I'm not sure. It had big leaves on it. I remember when it regenerated, the leaves were pretty big, like this big. I can ask Chris and find out.
That's very interesting. I know Dr. Diana Walsh-Brasuk has been talking to him and very interested with those sort of mythical overlays too, and
Yeah.
exploring that whole aspect.
She knew him well before as well.
Oh wow, didn't know
Diana.
that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They've known each other for quite a long time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To kind of just do a bookend to the first question, what would you say, Craig, would be the most like obscure or least observed species?
Well, there are rare cases of interesting things that people have come to me with after I wrote the book and said, have you ever seen or heard of the peppered Pleiadians? And I said, I have no idea what that even is. And they said that it was a race that they were Nordics. They had white skin, but they had little like red pepper marks all over their skin. And there's another race which I found interesting. I knew Dr. Frank Strange's extremely well before his death, and I made the short film Stranger at the Pentagon about Valiant Thor. Those are the posters you see behind me. And Dr. Frank told me that once when he was on the Starship, he said, you wouldn't believe the amount of different skin colors and everything that he saw. He said that there were people who had rainbow wash skin. I had heard of that definitely before. But he said there was a race that he saw that had like zebra skin. It was like human skin, but the coloring and the markings were like a zebra. And I always found that fascinating. And then, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was listening to Linda Moulton Howe talking about a case. And this person was in contact with people who had zebra skin.
Wow.
So there you go. You know, some of these are rare. And some people tell me different things that they've seen. I remember when I had a spiritual awakening and I started connecting when I was 26 to all kinds of different races. I sort of entered what I call the cosmic mind internet. So I started traveling and visiting races and seeing what they look like. And I remember seeing a race, you know, those monkeys that have those long noses that come down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that there was a race that even had that as well.
How did you encounter these races? Was it astrally or was it in your physical body?
It was, well, it was two different things. You know, look, I say this, I was a regular kid from the Valley, right, who just went to work, had fun on the weekends, never thought about what was out there in the universe, never watched Star Trek, never was into science fiction. I started having these dreams with 3 master teachers, and I didn't really understand who they were. I would just see them in the dream, and I would feel this immense unconditional love emoting off of them. I would sort of wake up, think about it, I'd forget about it, then it happened the next night, and that went on for 2 months. And then the 2 months after that, that went through, and then I would wake up in the dream and I realized that my spirit was where they were. And I realized that this is real, this is not a dream. And I started contemplating why this was happening. But I never feared them. It was all like, it was the most immense love. I mean, I can't even tell you. To experience it is that your body literally just goes into nirvana. It's incredible. And then the last 2 months were the same. I was in the dream. I woke up in the dream. Then I woke up in my bed, and they were all 3 standing at the foot of my bed in their astral forms. So I realized that something was happening here. And so I started writing about all of these experiences. Then the next experience was one of the females ignited my light body so that I can travel off of planet Earth. And that was a very interesting thing because I woke up on my stomach. I felt somebody holding my ankles, and my body literally was going up and down, way up in the air and slamming down on the bed. It wasn't hurting me or anything. And I kind of looked around, and there are these other beings around the bed sort of taking notes. And I turned and I saw it was her. And I don't think I was supposed to wake up. And so she touched my leg and I went back to sleep. And so from that point on, I literally started astral traveling in my dreams consciously to other worlds and seeing all these different beings. I remember even speaking in front of groups of these different looking beings to tell them what my story was like living on Earth, because they're very fascinated with the world of duality here, because they're all fully conscious beings, right? So when I would meditate, I would also connect into this type of experience. And sometimes it would be like if we were talking right now and I can see you clearly, when I'm meditating, all of a sudden you get a click in the back of your neck. It goes, and then boom, they're right there. And I can see them like I'm seeing you. And sometimes they were just smiling, sending love. Sometimes they said a message. Sometimes they showed me visuals and things like that. It was a 2-year waking process with many things to wake up over. And what I realized in the end is that they had woken me up to my cosmic heritage, right? And the male said to me at that time, he said, at the end of the 2 years, he said, now it's time to sit down and write the books that you were meant to write, and that's why you came here. And he said, so I'm going to you're going to hear things. You're just going to write and write and write until you can write no more. Don't stop. Don't edit. And I didn't know what channeling was. I didn't know what automatic writing was, but it was even a different experience than that, because in the beginning, at that time, there were portals in my little small 1-bedroom. This was back, my late 20s. I had one in the hallway, one at the foot of my bed, and one in the living room. So they would wake me up at 3 a.m. to start this writing. And they said because all the brain waves were asleep, and it was easier for them to push it through me at that time. And so I would see the energy forms coming down. They would come behind me, and I literally, my body ranked with chills for 15 minutes. And it just took some time for me to acclimate. But then the experience became, they would actually, it was a high form of telepathy, as how they describe it, is so they kind of sit in your body. They don't take over your body. They don't do anything weird like that. But they share their feelings of who they are and their heart and their experiences. And it's sort of like a motion picture going, and you feel it. And again, you start to sob because they're so beautiful, right? The souls are so beautiful. So, but then over time, as I acclimated, it just became easier and easier. And it was very fascinating for me because I was reading a book that was coming out of my hands and I didn't know where it was going. Right. So that's why he said, write and don't stop until you can write no more. So they still wake me up at 3 a.m. And so I have 7 books out on extraterrestrials, and I have a book series called The Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga. Those are the books. This is book 3. I'm sold out of book 1 and 2, but they're I saw everything so vividly. I actually hired an artist to do all the artwork throughout all the books of these beings, their home worlds, what it looked like inside their crafts. I mean, I was seeing things so vividly, and I still see them. I'm writing another book now. This book series is going to go into a 7-part book series. So I'm writing the 7th and final book now. It's just fascinating to learn about the universe, learn about duality. I didn't know one thing about duality, right? I didn't even know, okay, yeah, you got a good angel and a devil on your shoulder. That's how we were brought up. You know, listen to the good angel. But in retrospect, that is so true. It is so true. So, but duality, we get to learn it through the lead character, whose name is Tehran. He's a 7'7" Pleiadian with extremely long blonde hair. And he was born dualistic up there because in every 200,000 births, they have one person who is born dualistic for 2 reasons. One, for the fully conscious people to have a sounding board of what it is to be with a dualistic person, and for the dualistic person to understand what they will achieve when they reach full consciousness and they have all of these beautiful beings to ask questions of. He ultimately becomes the head of the Starseed program, which is on Earth, and so that's what these books are about. And but you get to learn about the greater universal duality, and you go on his journey learning about duality, so you can become fully conscious right along with him, going through all the trials and tribulations and things that he went through.
Wow, Mike, I'm quite comfortable with this because I've experienced numerous lucid dreams. I've even initiated an astral projection from a lucid dream, so I'm quite comfortable with this discussion. Craig, at what point did you become comfortable enough to speak about this openly?
Well, I started speaking about it openly with all of my friends, and they didn't think that I was weird or strange as most people would think. They were more concerned that they didn't understand it, so they came from a little place of fear, right? Even back then, in that little 1-bedroom, I always go right back to that 1-bedroom apartment I had. I would throw UFO parties, and I would get a ufologist to come to my house with the latest UFO footage on a DVD, pop it in, and I had over 100 people packed into my apartment. I made vats of spaghetti and salad and fed everyone, and they were some of the most fascinating things because people were very genuinely interested. So I did share with it. I remembered, especially when the first book came out, I Am Tehran, book 1. I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure how people would receive it with all of this information, but people really received it well, and so it's just been an ongoing process. I talk about it all the time. People in the industry know that I'm this, so I get phone calls from actors, famous actors, actors on TV shows, and they tell me about their abductions. They tell me about that they've seen their extraterrestrial children. They told me that one lady who starred on a TV show fought with a gray who was trying to abduct her daughter because she saw the ship in the middle of the night. They lived on a big giant property, and she fought with that gray and won. And there's just so many interesting stories. And one guy who stars on a TV show, he's pretty much out about it. I don't want to say his name, but he's the one who's been going up on craft a lot in his astral body, meeting his children, and he can go outside and now call in the ships. And he showed me by taking video with his cell phone and that kind of stuff. And interesting, after I had several conversations with him, I got a phone call from a woman who said, I'm the mother of, which was his mother. And I said, oh, I've already talked to your son. She goes, oh, thank God. I really wanted you two to connect. So.
Nice. I do feel like I want to jump in there for a second, because you sort of touched upon like the core of why we're even here on this channel. Because what we do is, of course, we talk about the non-physical, esoteric nature of the nuts and bolts phenomena. And you said that the person that you were talking to or with goes up to the craft in their astral body.
Yes.
So one of the things that we're trying to really figure out here is like how much of this is physical, how much of this is non-physical, and can you go into that a little bit more, because I'm kind of curious about, like, is it possible that if we are being taken astrally, can like DNA be extracted in that manner, and then if operations happen, can we come back with marks on our physical body? That's what I'm trying to kind of figure out myself on a personal level.
Okay, that's a big loaded question, but I can go through all of that, and if I miss anything, just tell me. So, First of all, Edgar Cayce, in all of his readings, he said that when we go to sleep, we leave our body and we astral travel and we have experiences, whether it's here on Earth, whether it is on a craft, whether it's in a ship, etc. Many contactees, abductees. A contactee, for your audience, just is somebody who is in contact with an extraterrestrial. They're not taken against their will. Some abduction cases, that they're abducting them against their will, but some abduction cases turn out to be that they actually had a prearrangement for this, and they realize that much later, right? So we can see that like in Whitley Strieber's case, and he sees that they're really here to benefit. Yvonne Smith, who has regressed over 2,000 to 3,000 abductions, she said that always in the beginning, it's always terrifying because they don't know what's happening. But once they begin to see it, they see that they're evolving, and they're actually elevating their spiritual sustenance. That's why we're here. We're here to grow. We're here to grow our spirit through our experiences on Earth. So there's those. I mean, look, there's good. I have heard horror stories. I have heard mediocre stories, and I've heard beautiful stories. I mean, there was an agent, a very prominent agent in town. I have a casting office in his building once, and he came and told me that he wakes up at night and a gray, when he opens his eyes, is right here on his face. Can you imagine that? Dang. And I said, well, I said what that being was trying to do was telepathic hypnosis on you to calm you before they would take you. And he said, well, I'm so terrified of it. All I do is I make sure that I go see plays or movies at night, and I don't get home till after midnight, so that I'm so tired that I go to sleep and I won't wake up. And he was having these experiences. There was another gentleman who came to me who he was so freaked out. I mean, you can tell when somebody's got a genuine story, but then he had physical evidence to back it up. He said, look what these aliens did to me. And he lifted up his eyelids, and he had an eye implant all the way around both eyes. And you could see it when he lifted everything up around the eyeball. And he said, they are seeing everything I'm seeing, and it's freaking me out. And he said, and I know because they told me if I go and have them removed, that they'll just put them back. So I can't imagine somebody allowing that to happen, meaning that they came here to allow some aliens to put that kind of stuff behind their eyes. Now, I have talked to other experiencers who say they know when aliens are looking through their eyes, but they don't have something physical there, right? Okay, Mike, I know I didn't hit a couple things. What were two of the things?
Well, that was that's a perfect point for me to jump in again because with the idea of like, there's definitely something physical about all this, and there's also definitely non-physical things about all this. What I'm really trying to personally reconcile is like the idea that somebody has something implanted behind their eyes or in their eyes. That is physical in nature. That like, we can see it. We can, it comes out in like medical imaging, or I'm sure. I don't know if there's a question here or not, really, but like, I guess the question, it's a wild question. Is it possible that the astral body can be taken out and then the implant be done astrally and then somehow manifest physically in the human body? Is, I guess, the gist of that question.
I've not heard of that, but I do know that the physical ones are put in, and they're usually little beads, and they have some biological material around it so that our bodies don't attack it, right? And try and extract it from the body. Dr. Roger Lear did lots of work on that. He even dissected some of them, and that they do transmit. Chris Bledsoe, who we talked about, he has one in his arm, like here, and he takes a magnet and he goes, watch.
Oh, wow.
And so you can see it going up and down. I know other people that just don't want them in their body, and they've had them taken out. Now, there can be astral implants, but usually that is going to be from a more advanced race that is here for the benefit of you and the benefit of mankind. That astral implant could mean that they're starting to help you with higher thoughts on how you can move through your emotions, because emotions are the things that we have to master here before we ascend. And so it will help you to examine your emotions and help you to examine how to do it with unconditional love. I remember when I started doing it, like when all of this happened, there was a woman I worked with who was just not a nice woman, right? She was just not a nice woman. I just couldn't stand working with her. And my three master teachers told me to put her in a golden bubble and just send her love every day in your meditation. And it took me a few days. I just couldn't do it. And then I did it each time, and I did it each time. And then it got easier and easier. And then I just started writing an astral letter that basically said, look, I don't like you. You don't like me. But let's just have a harmonious environment and let it just be what it's going to be, right? And when I started doing all of that, all of the energy from her started dissipating, and it became a really nice copacetic environment, and was no longer like that. So if I ever had problems, I would use that exercise. And I really found that it actually worked. Now, just going back to about the astral, right? Is the male teacher said that the spirit doesn't differentiate between the physical, the spiritual, and the mental. It learns in all three. So it doesn't, you're still learning while you're astral. If you're astral traveling somewhere, you're still learning. So if you're astral traveling to a ship, whether they're helping you to get there or you're doing it of your own accord, then you're there because a lot of times they have these things called night school, where people are able to ask questions, and they might not remember it right away, but slowly they start to remember things. And it just gives them a bigger peace of mind, because the thing that's the most frightening is the unknown, and the cosmos is the unknown, right? For us, like what's out there.
Yeah. Interesting.
Craig, I can see why the intelligence community might view contactees as some type of infiltrators. So I imagine they get maybe contact from the intelligence community as well. Have you had anything like that happen?
No, I haven't. Some of my friends are, they're in contact with intelligence. But I will tell you, I found the most interesting thing when I was writing the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac book is my mother, when I was 12 years old, told me that my father had adopted me when I was 1, and that I had a biological father. And she said we didn't know each other long. It did not go well. And but she said, but I got you, and everyone wanted me to give you, because this was in the 1959 when she had me. So everybody in those days was like, oh, you have to go into another state and have the baby and put it up for adoption so nobody will know. And my mom didn't care. She said, I love this child. I want this child. Thank God she did, because she was the best mother ever. But she told me, she told me the name. When the internet came about, I tried to find them. I couldn't do it. It was just too hard. And when I was writing the book, I got a call from a genealogist in Canada, and she was looking for information on my mother's father's side, because we were related that way. She was like my 4th or 5th cousin. I gave that to her, and I said, can you find my biological father? And she said, oh, I can find anybody. And she did. She found him. She said, I'm sorry to say he passed in 2006. And I know that he was married before he met my mom, and he evidently had a daughter. And but she said he's buried at Forest Lawn, across from Warner Brothers. And interesting enough, his middle name was Warner. So I went down to Forest Lawn the very next morning, and I said, do you have a name of anyone that called to pick up the body on this date? And she looked, and she goes, as a matter of fact, I do. She gave me the name. It was a different last name than his. I came home, I looked it up on the internet, and I found a 74-year-old man living around the corner from me, praying it was this man. And I wrote him a letter, stuck my picture in there, told him the story. If you know anyone in Fred's family, can you pass this along? And interestingly enough, he was Fred's half brother.
Oh.
So I went and had dinner with him and one of his sons. He had 3 sons. And an hour into the conversation, he said, well, your father was in the Air Guard, and our mother had to sign papers because he was underage, because he really wanted to go into the Air Force after. He went into the Air Force. He was in intelligence. And then he said, oh, and by the way, he was in Project Blue Book.
Oh.
Yeah. How do you think? I mean, my face literally fell. I mean, how close to the tree can you get, right? And I'm like, and it's happening when I'm writing a book for MUFON, which is the public's investigation of UFOs and extraterrestrials. And here he was in Project Blue Book, which was the government's exploration of that. And I'm good friends with Paul Hynek, whose dad, J. Allen Hynek, was the head of Project Blue Book. So the story even gets even a little more not strange, but synchronistic. Is after many years of being there, he comes back to Los Angeles. He meets somebody who helps him get into one of the unions here, and he ultimately becomes the head of construction at Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So I cast movies for film and television. He built sets for movies and television. I write books for MUFON. He was in Project Blue Book. I say it's literally in the DNA. So now I understand why that encounter happened, right? So I needed a vehicle to come through.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that mind blowing? And I looked just like him when I was young. I never even knew what he looked like. So I've got the family history and all of that, and I have a whole new side of the family which I love and adore. And my uncle and aunt live around the corner from me. How much better can you get?
Wow,
So
that's
Awesome.
beautiful. Did it make you feel even more confident about the path you're on?
it made me feel extremely confident. Yes, and I said, "Wow, that was just great synchronicity." And I just wish that he was here so I could have those conversations with him. But my uncle said he was a very tight-lipped man. He said all my sons tried to get UFO information out of him, and he would never answer them. He would just say, "Well, some people think they exist." That was his generic answer. But I said I'd have gotten it out of him. So, but what's also interesting, him and his wife lived out here around the corner from me for over 20 some years.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my God.
Literally that close. It just blows me away.
Was there any indication that they knew who you were or about you? I'm just kind of
No,
curious.
they didn't know anything. He said your father, when he got married the first time, never even told anybody he got married, and then one day he just said to my mom, "Oh, I'm married, by the way,"
Oh, wow.
and that was it. And I don't think he got along with his first wife, from what I'm hearing, and the daughter sort of, from what I understood, kind of was a bad seed. And Fred had left that situation, so I think the mother was left to raise her. She ultimately ended up in an institution, and that's where the trail of her ends. Is we can't find any records or anything, but I'm sure she passed on there. In talking to a few psychics, they actually brought it up. I didn't. They said that she had to go through a whole reconditioning over there, and that she's fine. But she was glad that she went through that harrowing experience here, because the more you go through here, you advance in your spiritual sustenance a lot quicker. So
She may have been an experiencer too, perhaps.
she could have been, yeah, could have been.
Well, that was one of the things that I wanted to sort of ask. In like, did you know if your biological father was involved in Project Blue Book at the time of your conception, or was that
No,
after? Or
no, my mom didn't even know that. My mom, she said I really knew nothing about him, and my uncle always said, I think my uncle was 10 years younger than him, because they have different fathers. And so he said he was pretty much out of the house by the time I was 10. And but he just said that he wasn't, he kept everything in. He never talked about anything.
Do you intuitively know if someone is a contactee or has had experiences, and just play into your casting role at all?
Well, it's interesting. When I'm casting, I can feel if that actor has experienced what's in the scene.
Oh, wow.
wow.
It's really interesting. And part of that waking up period during that 2 years is when I had my casting office on Sunset Boulevard, with the agent who had the gray in his face. Is when an actor would come in, I could read and see the beauty of their soul, and I would have to excuse myself and go in the other room and cry it out, because everything was so beautiful. I mean, everything I saw, it's like I felt like I could see the creation behind it. Even a ladybug, anything that was that simple, I could see it, and I could see it in people. But I could also see the dark in people. And so if I was walking down the same street as them, I would cross the street, right? And I've had a couple encounters with two street people who were climbing with demons,
Mhm.
literally. And one of them attacked me, and one of them, actually three, because one just happened. It was a woman. She tried to attack me on the street.
Oh, wow.
So I had a jacket, so I was able to hold up my. She had an umbrella, and she was just screaming demon babble. I mean, like you wouldn't believe. And the same happened. This was many years ago, walking down the street, and I mean, literally, I could just see them climbing all over um, this woman. And when she got to me, she started screaming, "We know who you are." And she started just cussing me out and screaming. And
Wow.
I literally just got back in my car and I drove around and I went and I parked somewhere else. And then she followed me. And then I had to get in my car again and go repark because I was afraid she was going to do something to my car. Um, so there are those kinds of experiences that are rare and on occasion, but they do exist. I'm also heavily into the paranormal. I don't do paranormal um, cases or anything like that, but I'm good friends with Chip Coffey, and and I've met Amy Bruni, and those, they did Kindred Spirits together. And Chip has just told me some horror stories of things that have happened. So I know a lot of people in there, and Chip is in the documentary as well. If you know who he is, he also did Psychic Kids, if you remember. And anyway, he actually does the Mothman because he had been there to Point Pleasant in the bunkers many times and had experiences there when he was doing his first show, Paranormal State.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you get on? Oh, sorry, Mike, you go first.
This is totally off topic, but I'm just curiosity, like with people, homeless people, as it were, and I'm not talking about ones who are living in vehicles or whatnot. I'm talking specifically about people who literally live on the street. Do you think that is that like a common theme, perhaps? Like, if are they surrounded by these negative entities, like on all over them, or?
Well, they are for one reason, is they're getting by heavily drinking, and if they have access to drugs, and if they're robbing homes or doing whatever to support that habit, then yes, because when somebody drinks a lot, even smokes a lot, along with weed or cigarettes as well, but if somebody is in that constant state of that, it creates tears in your aura, and it allows them to get in and slowly. How many times have you heard a murderer say, "The devil told me to do it"? Right? How many times have you heard that?
Yeah.
Because they allowed them to get inside them. Right? And look, we know some people are born with no empathy, and it's usually those people who end up becoming serial killers because they feel nothing when it happens. Right? I mean, I was just watching a true crime, and there was a guy who was a serial killer. And I mean, he was like in his, at the time of this incarceration, he looked like he was in his late 30s. And the woman said, "Well, do you think that you could ever love again?" And he said, "Well, I could pretend to love again." And I
Wow.
thought, oh my God, that was so creepy. It was just so creepy the way, that he said it. But if he was out on the street, I'm sure he could get some girl to believe it.
Oh, I
Right?
see.
Yeah. Yeah.
That thing you just described about the murderer felt a compulsion to do it from some internal being. Came up in David Lynch's Twin Peaks, and you've worked with David Lynch. Now, that's another interesting character.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I worked with David on Dune for 4 years. And There's a documentary that's come out called The Sleeper Must Awaken. You can only rent it online. I'm throughout that documentary.
I'm
And
sorry, what was
there's
that called again?
The Sleeper Must Awaken.
Okay.
You can just Google that. And there's another book called The Disarray of Dune by Max Evry, Evry. It is the most comprehensive book done on Dune. And David never gave an interview when Dune bombed. He would not do any interviews, and he gave Max an interview. It was thank God it was before he died, a couple years, and I provided Max with a lot, connecting him to a lot of the actors and some of the other behind the scenes people. So there is a huge amount of everybody, and he tells the story in synchronization with all of us telling the story. So you get a full breadth of what the picture was, along with pictures that I had and stories and of course, I wasn't casting then. I was a production assistant on that. I'd just gotten out of high school, and but I was I was always around casting. Jane Jenkins cast that film, and I just loved her. And she, so I was around there. I was there for the all of the screen tests. I think we did 2 days of screen tests. It was Kevin Costner before he was famous. An actor by the name of Lewis Smith, Michael Biehn, who was very famous back then, Val Kilmer, who actually had the part pretty much up until then, and then Elizabeth Lustig, who worked with Jane, found Kyle up in Seattle and brought him down, and I went and picked Kyle up and brought him to the Universal Sheraton, and I said, okay, get fixed up, I'm taking you to go meet David. And David liked him, and it was interesting. I sat between between Rafaela and Jane, and watching all of these. And when Kyle was up there, it was it was just evident it was him. And Rafaela leaned over to me and she said, "Should I change his last name?" And I said, "No, that's a nice last name, McLaughlin." So, but I can give you guys any stories about that, but a lot of the stories are in the book as well.
Thank you, Craig. You've also worked on Total Recall, which is based on a Philip K. Dick novel. Now, I find Philip K. Dick very interesting because he's into some of these esoteric layers and even had some experiences with some beings.
Well, interestingly enough, I hate to burst your bubble on this, but Total Recall was a script first. And this is how I learned a lot about the film business, being at Carolco, which did a lot of Arnold and Rambo movies, that type of thing. So what they did is then they went to and had a writer write the book to Total Recall, and then they released it before the movie, and then they bought 1 million copies of the book and put it on the New York Times bestseller list. And I was like, oh, so that's how these things happen, right? So, so yes, so it was a Ron Shusett, and I can't remember his writing partner, but he was a lovely guy, Ron. And so Total Recall was a gas. It was, I was stationed here. We did also shoot it in a studios Churubusco in Mexico City. So there were a few times that I would fly down, like, remember the lady's head that exploded in his hands?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I had to take that down. And we were always so angry with Mexican customs because they stole everything. Right.
Okay.
So I was very excited to see them open up this box with a head in it. Right. And they did all jump. And anyway, and then I also at one point had to fly down the Johnny Cab head as well. And but I will say this: Arnold was one of the most giving, cool stars around. He always would sign things for you. He would always give us Arnold muscle shirts and all kinds of very, very cool things. So, yeah,
Wow.
it was a fun movie to work on. I really liked it a lot.
Thank you for clearing that up. I also
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, please, how did you get on Spielberg's radar? How did you end up working with him?
Well, as I was working on Dune and Conan the Destroyer, one of the casting directors was casting Conan the Destroyer. And I sort of befriended her, and she had gotten the job on Amazing Stories. And I said, please, please take me with you, take me with you. And so she did. And, you know, I became the associate casting director on that show, which basically means, you know, you can run little sessions and bring in, you know, co-stars and make suggestions and things of that nature. I will say that was probably one of the funnest TV shows I ever worked on in my entire life. Every week, because it was anthology, you never knew what director you were going to get. I mean, our main producer, David Vogel, would pop over and say, Burt Reynolds next week directing, and we have oh my god, this is going to be so cool. And and there were lots of big directors, and you know, some directors that actually were like Norman Reynolds, who did the Star Wars movies. I think it was production design. He came and directed one. He was super nice. And so it was fun. And if we couldn't get an actor, we just called Spielberg's office, and secretary, you know, 2 would tell secretary 1, and secretary 1 would tell Steven to call the actor, and then they were on board. Who's going
Wow.
to say no to Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say no to Steven Spielberg. No, not
Right
at
on.
all. But I will say it was a blast. It was the best time on that show. And he was very generous with all of us. He fed us so well that I gained 60, count them, 60 pounds. It took me forever to get that weight off. So he fed us, and you know, and in the summertime they would bring in these big, like, you know, freezers filled with the most opulent ice creams. And you know, when you're in your 20s and you're just barely making it, you're like, oh, food, I can't afford
Yeah.
that. You eat it. Oh, I'll eat another one. Yeah, you eat another one until you're sick.
Oh, dang. So earlier, just to kind of go back into the more weird and wonderful. What you were talking about being fully conscious. What do you mean by it? What exactly is it? Can you explain what does it mean to be fully conscious, or how do you become fully conscious? Because I kind of like to think that I'm fully conscious, but yet I feel like I'm probably not in the manner that you're talking about.
Well, I think what happens is when we ascend, if we have done everything correctly that we set out to do in our life, that then we will become fully conscious. So really what that means is you are aware of everyone's thoughts around you, and you have to learn how to siphon out your antenna, right, to siphon out a lot of the noise. But again, it's also when you're telepathically speaking to someone else, they're also feeling everything that you felt when you're talking about it. It also means that you've mastered your emotions and your ego, right? Which we can call exhibiting godless overtures, as someone once said to me. And it's harder than you think, because there's sometimes where something will get me mad, and then I just have to go back and I think, okay, let me just go settle down. Let me just go have a meditation on this and let me just let it simmer. I don't need to fix this right away. Let's just let all the emotions settle down, and then we can talk and work it out, right? And if the other person doesn't want to talk and work it out, it's okay. You tried. That's all that you were meant to do, right? And if it brings it around much later on, then you can do that. But also being fully conscious is having divine powers. You can heal the sick. You could do everything that Christ did as well. So I remember, now I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but that when Christ said, all these things I do, you will do, something to that effect. And that's really also what being fully conscious is. Now, like for instance, on Valiant Thor's ship, he has 4 vice commanders. One of them is a woman named Teal. By the way, Teal does do night classes on board Victor 1. So if you're interested in that, project your thoughts to Lake Mead and to Teal. They record everything I do, so they will know who you are. And you can say, I would like to come to the night classes. Now, I went to the night classes a long time ago. I think I still go, although I don't remember. But I started remembering everything in those night classes, learning about the universe and that. And you also share about what you're experiencing here. But there was a time, I think around 2005, I had a severe bowel obstruction. I had a friend take me to the doctor, and they put me in an ambulance and took me to the hospital. And it was an all-day affair. And then my friend, she left me, I don't know, around 8 o'clock at night, and I just went to sleep. And nobody knew about anything that had happened to me. And in the middle of the night, I know what Teal looks like because she showed herself to me in the Mind Internet. So I knew exactly who she is. And I felt her standing over me, and I woke up in twilight where you're half asleep and half awake. And I felt a zillion little tiny bubbles going through my intestines. And I heard her say, "You will be fine in the morning." Right? And then I went back to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, Dr. Frank was sitting at the edge of my bed. And he said, Teal called me and said to get down here and tell you that she fixed you up last night. Don't get that operation. So as a fail-safe, she had Dr. Frank come down there. So that to me, now she did that. She was able to do that. Dr. Frank told me of many other times where Valiant Thor healed a man at the Pentagon who was a pilot who had an ulcer, and he was grounded and couldn't fly. And he stopped the man in the hallway, and he just laid his hands on him and just smiled, and that was it. And the man was very curious about it all, and he found out about it. And many years later, and he was fine, and he went back to flying. But many years later, I think in the 80s or 90s, he came to one of Dr. Frank's lectures, and he said, "I'm the man that Commander Thor healed."
Okay.
Right. So there's many cases of these kinds of things, and they've healed Dr. Frank from several things that happened to him over the years, where people tried to, once when he was in Germany, he got called away to the phone in the restaurant, and it was a ploy by these guys who wanted him to die. And what they did is they put ground up glass in his soup, and he ended up eating it. Oh. And Dawn, who's one of the other vice commanders, and Val healed him later in the hotel.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't like to interrupt our folks when they talk, but when you were saying Dr. Frank was at the foot of your bed, was he still like alive and physical,
Oh
or
yeah, no,
was
he's
this after
alive.
he transitioned? Okay, so
Yes,
I want
no,
to make I
he
think
was
it's a good
alive.
point. Okay, so
No,
this wasn't like this particular part wasn't like in a dream or the astral.
no,
This was like the physical. Okay, I think
physical. Yeah,
that's
he was.
yeah.
He was sitting right at my bedside, and when he saw me wake up, he stood up.
Dang.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for
uh,
clarifying that, because I'm sure a lot of people in the audience would have wondered.
yeah, I mean, Stuart has said a couple times like sometimes I'll be like the voice of the folks out there, and
Yes.
um, But another thing I wanted to with the night school, Lake Mead is in the Pacific time zone, and our humble channel here. You know, Stuart's halfway across the world, and we do have a worldwide audience, as it were. I look at our stats and such. So, with anyone who might be interested in joining up with that, is there? I mean, it's a silly question, but maybe not. Is it night school on the Pacific time, like, or is it just any time? Like, can people sort of tap into that 24/7? How does that work?
Well, I think she does it in certain times. So I would say it would be our time here in Los Angeles. But the one thing that they've taught me is that there is no time with that. So they could probably still bring you no matter what time it is, right?
Okay.
And all you have to really do is, if you have unconditional love in your heart and you really want to learn, that's what they see, and they will, she will allow you to come and just keep saying every night before you go to bed, I want to remember, I want to remember. And that's what I did, and I remembered after a month or two.
Interesting. All right. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
that. So going back to the sort of the beginning part of our conversation, you were talking, I think potentially when, I guess for lack of a better term, you call it channeling, when the book started to come like through you. Is there any type of feeling that's recognizable? Like, can you differentiate between like you're just sitting in the room and thoughts are popping in with your inner monologue versus something's coming into you or through you?
Well, it's like I said, it was more of a form of advanced telepathy where I feel their feeling body. So I feel who they are, right? And the thing is because they're fully conscious beings, or they're created beings like Valiant Thor, which means they're angelic and they don't have belly buttons. They're born of the Godhead, right? So they're here to look after all of us. And Valiant Thor is here to look after this planet. Here, he's still here, and he won't leave until the planet shifts over into becoming a fully conscious planet. So now, by the way, there's been many people that have met and seen Valiant Thor way back from yesteryear that I met. They were a lot more accessible then. They're not anymore. But I do get emails from people from time to time saying that they did visit him, that he came and visited them in their dreams, and that it was very, very profound. And it sparks a sort of spiritual awakening in them.
So Valiant Thor is currently still on Earth, but potentially not in. Doesn't sound like physical form.
No, he's in physical form.
Okay.
He's in physical form. The let's see, that ship back there. Wait, right here. That's his ship, Victor One. It houses over 200 people, and
Okay.
and they are stationed in, I think, 187 locations in and around the Earth. And the temporary crews change out and go from ship to ship about every 3 to 6 months. So they are all learning as they're young to do all the various jobs, so that you become, by the time you're an adult in their world, which is actually 70 years old, that you will have worked and done every single job. So you become this wealth of information to help all the younger people who are growing up as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So, so do you guys want to hear who's in the documentary?
Yeah.
So we got Chip Coffey, who's a big paranormal guy doing the Mothman. Paul Hynek, J. Allen Hynek's son. He does the Men in Black, which is appropriate because the Men in Black were a part of that era. Daryl Anka, who's Bashar, he
Oh, yeah.
talks about the Esasani. JJ and Desiree Hurtak, who like have 3 PhDs apiece. They are brainiacs when it comes to that. JJ wrote the book, The Keys of Enoch, the Book of Knowledge. If you've never read that book, it is the most mind-blowing book about the universe. Sixto Paz, who is a Alpha Centaurian contactee. He's been on their craft over 100 times. Very fascinating segment. Yvonne Smith, talking about why the grays and those are here. Barbara Lamb talking about hybrids. We go into all the different kinds of hybrids as well. Maurizio Cavallo, who is an Italian contactee for, I think, between 20 and 30 years with a human race called the Clarions. And he has pictures of all of them, which we show in the documentary, and he tells you who each of them are. Here's one that I have a color picture of. Her name's Nelfa, and you can see they have a little more rounded face, smaller features, that kind of thing. And she deals with astrobiology and chronoastronomy between the dimensions. So she's an operator that helps with the physical and the astral worlds, making sure that they sync together. Also, we have a Mantis hybrid, an Arcturian hybrid, Kathleen Martin, who is Betty Hill's niece. She's giving us the latest information about that case. And Walter Noasad, who was very good friends with, oh God, I'm blanking on his name. He worked for TRW, and he was there during the whole moon landing. And he said when he worked there that there were many Pleiadian secretaries that worked there who were Nordics because they were smart and they helped guide them along the way. And one of the most amazing things that he said is that one of the reasons why they were here was so that they could help us build space navy arcs so that we and they could share in combating our shared reptilian problem. Which I remember was very fascinating. Yeah.
I remember William Tompkins talking about that.
William Tompkins. That's it. Thank you. That's him. Yeah. It's William Tompkins. Also, Athena Sharon, who was and still is, she's still alive, best friends with a woman from Telos who knew all about Agartha. And of course, Chris Bledsoe doing the Lady of Light, among other people. And so it's a nice 1.5 hour long documentary. People can watch it or download it on Vimeo, or if they want to get a DVD, they can go to autobiography of onanet.com. I sent you guys those links. I think you're going to post them for everybody as well. And on that same website as a DVD, you can also get, UFO Hotspot Compendium, which is another MUFON book I did. We had all the MUFON state directors send in their favorite hotspots around the US and Canada. And then I worked with the MUFON investigators to bring everything up to date. And, I give you what Project Blue Book said, what J. Allen Hynek said, all of those kind of things. Give you the actual coordinates to where Adamski met Orthon, the Venusian being, where George Van Tassel met Salganda, another Venusian being, where Travis Walton was abducted, where Valiant Thor's ship is stationed at Lake Mead, and all of that. And then also, the ET Species Almanac book. And then on the front page is all of the autobiography of an extraterrestrial saga book. So if anybody gets anything off of the website there, I personalize it and autograph it and do all of that. So just make sure you toggle around between the different, the homepage is the autobiography and extraterrestrial saga, and then other books is where the DVD and the ET Almanac book and all my other books are.
Awesome. We're going to be definitely putting the links in all the descriptions, whether you're audio only or on YouTube, and it's also going to be there on your guest page on our website as well. So people will have make it as easy as possible for them to click on to get a book or to check out the movie and whatnot. So thanks for all that. And just like sort of to wrap up here, I mean, some of the stuff that you're talking about, well, potentially all of it, right? But, some of it more so than others, is pretty wild. And I can potentially see like a part of the reason that we're doing this too is to, I don't know, somehow reach out to folks who, to be like a gentler way to introduce people into this. And some of this stuff is just like, come on. For example, like in the book, the Almanac, Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, you're talking about some folks who are living under the surface of Venus. And I said to one of my friends, like, even for me, man, this is going to sound weird, but that's a hard thing for me to grasp or to take in. Like, what would you say to anybody out there who might just be shut down to this information or think that it's just a little bit too, like, unbelievable?
Well, just so we're a little bit clearer, all of the planets in our solar system are populated on the inside of the planet. Really? Yes. So that was one of the things that Dr. Frank taught me. Now, the thing is that they have advanced technologies. They can terrace it out like it's an actual spaceship. They use their own resonation signatures. That's how they stay looking very young. They all look like they're 30 years old, and they live for hundreds or thousands of years. Some of them live for 10, 20,000 more years. Created beings do not die. They will look the same. Valiant Thor looks the same as when the pictures were taken of him in 1958. And except his hair is a little longer when he comes to me in dreams. It's and it's not slicked back. It's like comes about to here and to about here. And but Dr. Frank used to say to everybody, especially if you have never heard anything about any kind of information like this, he would say, put it on a shelf. And as you progress in your life, if you want to pick it up a little bit later and revisit it, you might think differently. Now, I know that has happened to me many, many times in my life where I didn't believe in something and then something turned my own belief systems around as well. But I just want people to remember we're sharing information. And if it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't, throw it away. And maybe, some people are very fearful of this kind of information. And what you have to realize is that there's more of an angelic presence on Earth, even though you don't think it. There is. And that everything that is happening, it has to go through this cycle before it can start rebuilding itself. And I think everyone is feeling it's coming to the end of that cycle. I've seen lots of people online thinking that we're going to have disclosure in 26 or 27. Mm-hmm. Now, what kind of form that will be in, I don't know. But other countries have already disclosed extraterrestrials.
Such as?
Well, I don't remember which ones, but I know that they have. So if you
Okay.
Google it, it'll come up.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, have you seen? I mean, I'm sure. I personally don't believe this one, and of course, it's on X, right? It's the latest flavor of the day, as it were. But they're not saying exactly who but they're saying Harvard astrophysicist, who else other than Avi Loeb are they talking about, right? But there's this new object coming in, and he's saying that it could be a hostile alien ship that's going to attack Earth in November of 2025. Have you heard about that one yet?
I think I saw a little something about it, but just so you know, other people have said that as well throughout the years, and if there's such a huge presence in our favor out there that they would not let that in
Interesting.
if it were true, right? So I just like to keep people's minds at ease when it comes to that kind of information, because some people will tear into the fear and into the negative
Yeah.
part of it.
True.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, how can somebody even postulate with an object that's far away? Like, where would you even come up with that idea? How could you?
Well, they can see far away, believe me. They're just
Okay,
not
yeah,
telling you, but
true.
they're not gonna. Nobody in our government's going to say anything like that, and for good reason. I mean, it would cause a panic. It would cause all different kinds of things, right? So,
Very true.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess if there was a meteor going to crash down on Earth, I would not want to know. I would just want to go
Oh,
about
they
my
just let it
life.
be boom, and
Yeah.
boom, and then
Um,
we're on the other side, and okay, that was fun.
exactly. Right? Oh man. Um, Stuart, you got anything else? Seems like we're kind of wrapping up here, but
Yeah. If anybody wants to see the short film Stranger at the Pentagon about Valiant Thor, you can watch it on Amazon Prime, or you can rent it or download it on Vimeo. That's my next project. I'm gearing up for the feature film now as well, which is going to be so cool. It's going to rival anything that's been seen out there, because I see all this stuff very clearly in my head. So that will be very, very cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if there's any millionaires or billionaires out there, call me. Please.
There's definitely some out there somewhere, right? You got to
Yeah.
reach out to the crypto guys. The moon.
Well, I mean,
moon bros.
George Nuri loves Stranger at the Pentagon, and he introduced me at my first screening, and we became fast friends. And he said, "Craig, every radio show you're on," he goes, "I talk about it all the time." He said, "Somebody will call you." So if I ever have an opportunity, I always say, if there's a millionaire or billionaire out there, call me. So, and I'm serious.
Yeah.
So we're all ready to go. I'm a casting director. I already got the cast, so we just got to get everything together.
Yeah, you gotta put it out there. You don't ask, you don't get, right?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. I just wanted to ask you one final question. Are you familiar with the telepathy tapes? I'm listening to this quite a bit at the moment. You've mentioned telepathy a couple of times during this discussion.
No, I've never heard of that, but I'd love to listen to them. Are they online?
It's probably one of the most popular podcasts at the moment. I would highly recommend you check it out.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, it just came out within the last couple of months, really, I think, and I haven't checked it out too much yet myself. But they had a little bit of a what do you call it? A demonstration at Contact in the Desert that was pretty damn impressive.
Right. Yes.
So that's so.
That's right.
This is like all of the story behind all that, as it were.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I remember somebody went. I mean, I was there, but I didn't go to it. But one of my best friends went, and she told me all about it.
Yeah.
I also want to thank you. This has been an amazing conversation, very thought-provoking. That incident you mentioned, putting the bubble around the person you had the issue with, was very beautiful, and that's really made an impression on me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, that's straight from master teachers, and it's a beautiful thing, and it actually works.
Beautiful.
I might
Yeah.
have to try that out myself and see what happens. But that also, it kind of goes back into this whole thing that I'm just obsessed with, like physical versus non-physical, and you're doing something in the non-physical that's affecting something in the physical, and it's
Right.
pretty
Right.
wild stuff.
Right. But just remember that all your consciousness, your spirit, and your body are all learning, and your spirit could be somewhere else right now while you're conscious, learning about something else as well. I had that experience when all of this began happening to me. And I was away learning, and I knew I was consciously learning because I could see the visuals in my mind. And then it would come into me, and I felt so light that I literally had to get a bunch of hematite stones and carry them in both pockets just to stay grounded. Um, but you remember, we are incredible beings. We are lucky to be on this planet, even though we are brave to be here. It's one of the toughest planets of learning in our entire solar system. And we are all, like I said, extremely brave to be here. And we're all just trying to figure it out. And we're all just trying to help each other. And that's what I truly believe, that is how the whole planet's going to raise consciousness. And any of the negative beings that are here, it's going to be, the energy will be so high they will have to leave on their own accord, because they won't be able to stand being in a higher vibration.
Wow.
Thank you, Craig. What a beautiful place to end that. Much love to you, my friend.
Much love to you too. Thank you guys for
Thanks so
having
much,
me
man.
on.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it, and
You're
keep in touch for
welcome.
sure.
Yeah, definitely have me back. We could talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like we can. So we'll have to have
Yeah,
another one pretty soon.
absolutely. We could talk about, believe me, all kinds of stuff. Like I said, I've got 7 books worth of material,
Wow.
Hey.
and 3
All
that
right.
aren't published yet. So
Oh wow.
yeah. So
Awesome.
well, thank you guys so much, and thanks audience for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk to you at some point soon.
Yes.
Okay, Reverend Stu, what do you got to
That
say?
Well, first thing I want to say is I really loved that gentleman's energy. Very beautiful. And he was talking about some really positive things. Now, look, I brought a little bit of skepticism to that, and I hope it wasn't showing too much. But I also shared during that interview a little bit more about my experiences where I've had lucid dreams, I've had astral projection experiences. So I'm open to this information.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to have to dwell on that for a while, and I'm definitely interested in reading some of his books.
Yeah, they are pretty cool. I've got the UFO Compendium Hotspot, UFO Hotspot Compendium, as well as the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. So they are awesome books. I myself, and I think I've maybe said in the past as well, have had astral experiences as well, and so I'm open to it as well. But I also can, I can sort of sense almost in a way that when this goes out, there's going to be people who are like, "Oh, come on, this is just too wild and crazy," or whatever. And it's like, well, what is more wild and crazy than humanity not being the alpha in the universe, right there? And then, you're going to get wild and crazy after that when there's other, species and whatnot, beings around. So,
Well, to be fair, like from my spiritual tradition, we have angels and demons, all kinds of things. So it's not really that big a jump.
yeah, okay. So here's the thing, and this is when I said earlier in the beginning, like I'm shifting. I don't know, like from my perspective, like 80, maybe 90% of this is all non-physical stuff, and 10% of it's physical. Depending on who you ask, they might agree or disagree. Um, I'm really wrestling with this physical versus non-physical thing on a personal level, because again, like, show me the craft, I want to touch it. Show me the being, I want to high five it. Maybe you can, maybe you can't.
Yeah.
So that's, for all the Xers out there, right? Who and I don't mean Generation X, best generation ever, but I mean talking about like the social media platform X. They're all up in arms probably, if they're even tuning in here to this, because of the you can't really prove a lot of this stuff. And it's not until you experience it. Like I'll just say, like, generally, without going into too great detail, I have a very vivid dream of me going right through a frickin' wall, and then some interesting stuff happened after that. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm calling it a dream. It seems like it was, but whatever that was, I don't quite know. But it was very real in the sense that other people may have seen that happen.
Well, I've had astral projections that involve that kind of activity too. And one of the fundamental aspects of Gnosticism is direct personal experience. And it's at that moment that you'll see for yourself the reality of these issues. So, there are some of these things that have been revealed to me, not to the extent that has been revealed to Craig, I would say, based on what I've heard today. However, I've had things revealed to me that I've subsequently become a believer about. So, I've got an open mind and an open heart, Mike.
Yeah, that's how you have to be. But I think it's pretty awesome that I said what I just said. You didn't even bat an eye, and then you're just like, yeah. And for me, I can't believe I just said that. Actually,
That's all right.
But whatever. I'm going to put it out there because I didn't say a whole lot. There's more to it. If that sounds familiar to you, reach out because I am searching for a couple people who saw that.
Intriguing.
So I mean, I'm at the point where I'm kind of like, okay, I do. Although I mean, I've tested the waters a few times, and I had somebody just hang up the phone on me when I told them a little bit about that. They were a friend too, still are, but some people can't handle some stuff. But the point is, if I say too much, I won't be able to investigate it, and I'm still technically investigating that as well.
Fascinating. Okay, I hope to hear about that in the future sometime.
Perhaps. Anywho, I've said too much.
That's all right.
But that was a great conversation. Glad we had it, and we've got more people already scheduled, and we'll be back real soon. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. As always, much love to all our audience and to you, Mike. Love you so much.
You too, Stuart. And again, I got to get like something beat me over the head here because we're doing this all wrong with the podcast here, and I keep forgetting we got to do the promotions and such. Like if you like these conversations, we've got a boatload of them in our archives. You can check them all out. And thank you for hitting the like button, the subscribe button, the share, and posting comments as well, because that helps tell the robots to let other people hear these conversations as well. We are a humble channel with a growing audience around the world, and we're not for everyone. I'll tell you that for sure. But nonetheless, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back real soon.
Thank you. Take care. Until next time.